Hey, Forge fans, welcome to the Forge Audio Network. I'm Anthony Urciuoli, your host. Busy week ahead for your Forge FC. Couple of home matchups coming up Wednesday night and then Saturday afternoon. But before we even think about Saturday, we need to focus on Wednesday. I mean, the club needs to focus on Wednesday, but I'll redirect you to Wednesday. We're not going to look ahead. We're not going to look past what's coming Wednesday because it could be one of those classic trap games. Forge has been talking about it. They're going to be ready. They're not overlooking this club. Mont-Royal Outremont from the Quebec Semi-Pro League, equivalent to our League One here in Ontario. It is an important matchup for both clubs. For Forge, who haven't been thrilled with their form as of late, are going to be looking at this game as an opportunity to regain that form. And if you're Mont-Royal Outremont, you're looking at a pro club that you could possibly get points against, that you could beat. And for them, that's a pretty hefty proposition and one they're excited for. You know they've had this game circled on their calendars. If anyone was looking past this matchup, Outremont is going to make sure that you're going to regret that because they're going to come out and they're going to compete, even if the outcome isn't necessarily there. We're actually, and I should say, we're going to hear from Oliver Platt in a few minutes, CPL analyst from One Soccer. He's going to introduce us to Mont-Royal Outremont. He's been looking pretty deeply into these Canadian Championship preliminary round matchups because, the CPL is going to be fully entrenched in that. MLS clubs are as well. But this is going to be an interesting experience for everybody. Before we get to Oliver, though, Garven-Michee, the midfielder / defender, he's very versatile for Forge FC. He played in this league, in this semi-pro league, and he is very, very familiar with Mont-Royal Outremont, and I was able to catch up with him. So how's your French trash talking? Good?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Yeah.
Is it good for Wednesday?
It's good for Wednesday. I'm ready.
Ready. Are you familiar with the club at all?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the club. I played against them since 2018 when I first joined the PLSQ, so I know some of the guys in the team.
Yeah, how for fans, a lot of people probably just don't even know what we're going to see on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. The caliber of play, the quality. Mm-hmm. What can we expect on Wednesday?
It's a good team, an experienced team. They have a lot of players that played professional in the past, so they're a team that like to keep the ball, and just an experienced team that keeps the ball and tries to keep the ball on the ground.
And it could be a dangerous matchup too if if they're overlooked. Have you guys been emphasizing that it's a one game at a time thing and focus on this before the league match?
Yeah, of course we got to be sharp. We got to take this as a CPL game. It's a cup game, but even if we play against a PLSQ team, we got to take it seriously. We know that they're a good team, and it won't be easy.
Yeah, and they're going to be hungry to prove themselves as well, right? How does a short week change just training, your typical routine? Does it impact it much?
Not really, because of last year. Last year we were playing every 3 to 4 days, so we're kind of used to it. So it's just another week.
This is kind of a break, if anything.
Kind of a break.
Yeah. Just lastly, the club. Do you think the club's still kind of trying to find its rhythm in domestic play? It's been kind of inconsistent to this point.
Of course. We've got a lot of new players that still got to adapt to the new style, but it's for sure gonna come with time. Last year we had a slow start as well, and we ended up finishing first. So I'm sure that we're gonna pick it up.
All right, we go from Garven-Michee to Oliver Platt, CPL analyst with One Soccer. It looks like from the outside in that it looks really good for Canadian soccer, that you're getting all this competition from all levels.
Yeah, I think that's what the Canadian Championship does, right? Is it brings all of our different levels together, from most obviously MLS and CPL, and we're going to get plenty of that with the 2020 final, like you mentioned, and then a few matchups, I think, in this year's competition as well. But then also the semi-pro level, like seeing some of these League One Ontario, the PLSQ teams get a chance to play against professional sides. Like we've seen some really good players get their start in these matches. Alistair Johnston played for Vaughan Azzurri a few years ago. Mo Farsi, who was a CPL star, obviously came out of the PLSQ as well. And now we have the league in BC that's starting up similarly that could maybe join the Canadian Championship pretty soon. So, it's a great competition. I love this competition. It brings brilliant storylines, I think, every single season. And the first round, when everyone's in it, is always an exciting time.
And it can be a tough assignment for Forge. I was talking to some of the players today, and you can't take any of these games lightly because these clubs coming in they're determined to make sure that they're noticed.
For sure. And yeah, you look at Blanville, the Quebec team that's been in the competition, I think 2 or 3 times now as champions of that league. Like they gave York a good game, they gave Halifax a good game. Those were not easy ties for the CPL team by any stretch. So you expect the same kind of thing from Montreal. I think Forge, look, they've gone to Quebec for plenty of players in their squad. They've found some talent there, so they know that there's plenty of quality in that province and in that league. And Forge are heavy favourites, obviously playing at home, but yeah, it's never an easy tie.
And to your point earlier, a lot of players got their start in these leagues, and now they're playing in the CPL or MLS. I guess I'm saying these guys can play. As I guess what I'm trying to say, it's not going to be just some kind of a give me match for Forge.
Yeah, Sissoko's another one, right? And
Right.
I think it's an interesting thing because obviously we don't have that Quebec CPL team yet, and so it's probably one of the areas of the country where there's the highest concentration of potential professional players, talented players, but there isn't a CPL club to potentially really identify that talent and give them those opportunities. So obviously you have CF Montreal, who can give a certain number of players opportunities in their academy and then in their first team, hopefully. But that's a very limited number of spots, and there's certainly, I think, more talent out there to support potentially a CPL team in the future, which we all want to see happen. So it's a little bit of an untapped market, I think, at the minute. And Forge have done a really good job of identifying that with the players you mentioned. Perseus as well as another one. Halifax have done a good job of dipping into that province as well. There's definitely some really good footballers that come out of that region for sure.
And as a player, I mean, could part of this even be an audition that some clubs are watching, and maybe a game, having a good performance against a CPL club might improve your chances of joining the league, the next season, let's say.
Yeah, 100%. I think cup competitions all over the world have the potential to do that, right? When lower league teams face teams from higher divisions, supposedly better players and hold their own, there's a great opportunity for you to kind of stake your claim and show that you can play at that level. I mentioned before, Johnston, Farsi, there's a few different players that you could list that have got their start in these leagues, have shown what they can do in these Canadian Championship matches. And Halifax played Vaughan Azzurri in preseason and liked one of the players so much, Ryan Robinson, that they signed him for the CPL season. So you know that people are watching these teams and looking to find that next Farsi or that next big thing.
And it just all of it looks just really good. I know I kind of mentioned this earlier, but it's a really good look on Canadian soccer. I mean, it also showcases that the talent's here and the talent has always been here, but now there's just more and more opportunity for these players to be able to showcase what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a lot of people for a long time that have believed in the talent in this country and that it's untapped, and there just aren't the professional opportunities there that we've needed to have to allow these players to go to the next level. They're always having to go abroad and figure it out on their own, and they're always going to be kind of second class citizens when they do that to the domestic players in whatever country that is, and that's understandable. We treat our players the same way. So to now have, obviously the CPL has been the biggest piece, but this competition again with all the different clubs from different levels playing in it is a really special thing.
Yeah, and just talking about Forge again, it's been a odd start to the year for them. I mean, I guess inconsistent would be a good way to put it. Is there something that's been lacking in their play? Is there something that's really kind of stood out to you early on for Forge?
I don't think it's much that we haven't seen before from Forge in terms of the way they tend to start the season a little bit slower than other sides, maybe. I think we talked before about the way that Bobby Simoniotis likes to lay a foundation early in the year that doesn't always jive with having perfect results. Different young players come in, new players come in, and right now probably the biggest thing holding them back is just unavailability of players. Right, the defense obviously stands out in terms of missing some key pieces there and not having a ton of stability there at the start of the season, but even further forwards, there's maybe not the depth that you'd normally expect to see with someone like Omar Brownie not playing so far. Obviously, he's been missed. So I think it's just a work in progress for them. I really struggle to have much concern about the way Forge are going to end up. I just think there's too much quality there, too much experience. But, this is something we've seen before from them in terms of how they can sometimes come out of the blocks a little slower.
I read you had an interesting piece on just, I can't remember if you wrote it or you were just quoting it, but it's for the Canadian Premier League, and it was just the level of intrigue in some of these Canadian Championship matchups. Are there any in particular that you're kind of looking forward to see and you're going to be watching with a lot of intrigue?
Yeah, I think obviously it has to be Vancouver against Fala. The Whitecaps have just had such a tough time in this competition in recent years, and for a long time, to be honest, they've only won it once, right? And to have the record they have against the CPL teams, losing to Cavalry, losing to Pacific, they haven't won in the individual games. They play 3 games and haven't won any of them against CPL teams, which is pretty remarkable given the differences in budget between the two leagues. So to now be going into a pathway where it's not just this Valor game. This Valor game, I think, will be great in itself, but Vancouver's pathway to the final is through 3 CPL teams. And seeing them navigate that, I think is going to be really interesting in this competition. And we know what the reaction is going to be if they fail to do it, as they have done over the past couple of years. So that's probably one that stands out. Guelph against Halifax as well. There's maybe the potential for Guelph to spring a bit of surprise there. We know Halifax have struggled to score goals on the road so far this season, and they're going to have to go away from home and win that one. So that's one I think will be really interesting too.
All right, there is Oliver Platt. Thanks so much for doing that. And I should clarify, I butchered the promotion of his article because it is great, and I do hope you get a chance to read it. It's at onesoccer.ca. Oliver Platt's Monday musings, which Canadian Championship first round tie is most intriguing. So he'll break some of those down. He mentions the Forge matchup as well. So check that out, and also keep it locked to the Forge Audio Network. A busy week for Forge means a busy week for me and for the network, and good news for you because it just means more and more content. We have our preview coming up against Mont-Royal Outremont, and we also have a preview coming up for this weekend's matchup. Forge FC will be home to Atletico Ottawa at 4 o'clock Saturday. So plenty more coming up. Keep it locked. But before you do any of that, head on over to Tim Hortons Field for Wednesday night championship, Canadian Championship tie against Outremont. Forge FC, the hosts. I'll be there, and I hope to see you there.
We are the Forge, the mighty, mighty Forge.